Good afternoon, everyone. I am Sha-Kiya Gadson, the host of the ListNing Project. Today, we have the honor of hearing Mr. Steven Innis. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. How's it over there in New York?
It's good. The weather is like playing ping pong between winter and spring, so I'm just trying to get out when it's warm out, get some vitamin D, but it's New York. There was something happening.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, do you know what the ListNing Project is? And if you've heard of it, what have you heard?
So I had heard I'm not sure if it's all, and I'm not sure like how much you published so far, but the episode that you had posted on YouTube, um, and kind of just like you holding space for men to express themselves in our stories, which I think is beautiful. This is to my knowledge, and topics that are maybe a little bit hot, like hot topics, and then just typical like questions for men to get a different perspective. That's the kind of framework that I have for the if you will.
Cool, good. So, you are correct in that this is a space for men, particularly to just sit down with a person that is invested in hearing what they have to say. I feel like when we can sit down and have an honest conversation that isn't based on what we can do for each other outside of hearing what is needed or how you can be better supported, it changes things a lot. It gives you the space to be free and to be open and to be vulnerable. And for me to get a better understanding and thereby share it with my listeners, and everybody can get to a better place, I believe. There's nothing worse than not being heard, especially when you're going through something and you don't have the space in order to share that with someone and they not make it about them.
Mm-hmm.
So around the next hour or so, you and I are just gonna have a conversation, chop it up, talk about you. Because I feel like some of my viewers will end up being in a age range where you could, share your experiences with them and they can relate to it. There might be a time where they're listening to someone older and it's like, well, that was a long time ago. Things don't operate that way now. So let me click it off. But I feel like once we get a good range of ages and experiences, then everyone can find something, whether you're going through it now or you could possibly be going through it in the future. So I'll start off with, tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I'm 24. I'm a Gemini, so I'm turning 25 in June.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm an artist by trade, if you will. I've been an artist. It's the only thing I've ever wanted to be since I was a kid. Music, drawing, instruments, writing, a writer. I'm a son, I'm a brother. Yeah, I'm just an all in all. I'm Black and Puerto Rican, well, Trini specifically. And yeah, I'm a New Yorker. So that's a little bit about kind of who I am in a wide scope.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. You said you're an artist. Nowadays, people have either two different views of artists. They either feel like it's much needed and it's very Renaissance and it's going to take the world to a better place, or they say artists are flighty and their ability to have regular jobs and be productive to society is minimal. How do you feel about that?
I think it's funny. I always find myself having conversations about the role of an artist in a society. I think now, kind of like there's this very clear line between art as expression and art as entertainment. I guess I'll start there, and I feel like it's like a yin yang to begin with, because even if like the expression of it, I think, can take it to a Renaissance place. Kind of like this show that you have, having the space for people to express themselves freely, sometimes in a way that's controversial, allows for growth. And I think that's like the most important thing about art to me. And I think that's what could lead to Renaissance. However, there are also a lot of people now who are artists, but I think everybody's an artist. But there are artists that are like, man, I'm here for a check, which I think is also real, right? Like entertainment is also a big thing. Like you can work on a TV show or work in entertainment and do a job and go home and not really care about the impact that it has on the viewers, kids, the community, the world at large. And that's also okay. But I think art definitely has the capability to take the world to a different and maybe a cooler place. I hope so. And I hope I'm a part of that. But I think the two will always coexist for sure.
Okay. So, morally, do you feel like art imitates life or life imitates art?
I think it's maybe it's gonna be a little bit corny, but I feel like life and art are the same thing. Definitely, of course, as an artist, I'm imitating only what I see out of my eyes every day and what I hear and what I'm inspired by. But in the same way, if the people on Earth and the universe are all one thing, I'm like regurgitating what is already put into me and vice versa. So like if art is this community building thing and like it changes the world or the physical world, then it's like it's a yin yang, it's a cycle, it's like the life cycle, you like a phoenix or like a tree goes back into the ground and comes back up. Like everything is everything in some ways.
I agree. So, you live in the melting pot of New York. How has that shaped how you see the world? Most people feel like New Yorkers feel like we are the center of the world. What are your thoughts on that?
Man, I definitely, on the ego tip, feel like we are the center of the world just because we have so many different cultures, the convenience. Like there's so many like shops or like restaurants now where it's like Chinese, Mexican shop. I'm like, that's two different worlds coming together and making.
Coming together, yes.
Ah, that's so sick. So I love New York for that reason. But I do also think that like New York, weirdly kind of like hip hop is like a sample thing, right? So like if we don't take in other cultures or other people, we kind of get boring. So
Mm.
it's kind of like we need a little bit of the outside to bring inside to appreciate, not appropriate, and become even cooler. Like New York is cool because we rep so many flags.
So, being of two different cultures, Caribbean and Hispanic, do you feel like the world is getting scarier?
I don't know. It's. I definitely think to myself every day, how do we allow so many weirdos to become powerful people or lead nations? Or it's just like, how did we get here? And then on the other side of that, and excuse me if I'm just speaking in a lot of dualities, but this is what I've been thinking about recently is when you come with great oppression, there's always people that want to revolt. And so seeing the people that are like, this is wrong and stepping out, people that you wouldn't like expect to care or like
Hmm.
fight back or have that sort of ambition brings me so much hope at the same time. So I'm like, for people that fall within the identities that I hold, I'm like worried for, which is and myself included, but I'm also like really hopeful because it feels like there's a lot of like unified sense of justice, which is like sick, like really, really sick. Just a quick example, like my older brother, we were having a conversation about leadership in America. He was like, man, I'm reading. He's like, I'm just randomly reading some of the stuff that this guy is doing, and I'm like I didn't even realize, and like just coming into a perspective of caring about the world and what legislation, like how legislation affects us from somebody like my brother was just like, damn, this is sick. Sometimes it takes, sadly, oppression and a big bad for people to come together. So duality.
That's a cool perspective on it, and I try my best to stay out of the muddy water because I feel like after a while it will do one or two things to you. It'll either um, make you complacent because you hear it too much, or it will affect you mentally. I try to be mindful, but not jump in too deeply. Do think that that's pretty cool when you hear that people that would not normally read up on certain things are becoming smarter about it. So sometimes it takes the worst to bring out the best in people or to enhance them. So I think that that's a positive that was an unexpected
Yeah.
addition to it. Do you feel like this is a part of an evolving cycle, or do you feel like this is something new?
In terms of like seeing people that I wouldn't expect care about the world in some ways, or like having big bad and power.
All of it.
Do I feel like it's an evolving cycle, or do I feel like it's something new? Yeah, I think what you saw you reap. So I don't feel like it's anything new. I feel like it's an evolving cycle. To speak just really quickly about Staten Island, um, Staten Island is the only red borough in Staten Island in New York City. But to my last knowledge, we had more. I don't know if this is a. You could be very nonpartisan. I guess I'm the interviewee, so I won't be. But we have more registered blue voters on Staten Island than we do have red, and so it's like turnout is what it says. It's the turnout. So if you don't go out and vote, even if you're registered, then we end up in poop positions. So it's like we have to do the work if we want to see change. Nothing happens if nothing happens. So for me, it's just like We didn't do the work. We being humans that care about human rights in general, and we reaped what we sowed. So yeah, I don't know.
I didn't know that we were the only red borough in the city. That's kind of crazy. But you know what? That actually makes a lot of sense when you look at how Staten Island has, how it started and how it has evolved. Of course, there are other boroughs where there's always a line in the sand or has been a line in the sand as to where you can go or what you shouldn't do or should do. But I feel like Staten Island was a little bit more vocal
Definitely.
in that. It is truly one of those places where it is divided by an expressway. But you talk to people and you say Staten Island, and they have a perception of what it is, and it's really nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it really has this city country feel. Country in that there are some really old views, but city in that we have a lot of, if not more crime than a lot of people will ever
Yeah.
think to know of. Like, no, Brooklyn is like, no, this little island
Dangerous.
yeah. And
Dangerous.
they would never know it.
Yeah.
So, how do you, as a Staten Islander, stay out of the danger? How do you avoid it?
It's a good question. I feel like growing up here, like just taking a bus to school, you go through a bunch of different hoods, which is cool. But you kind of learn to, if you're going places, keep your head down. Classic New York, just mind your business will get you out of so much trouble or keep you out of trouble. Yeah, and I think that's just kind of how I live my life at this point, which is I go to work. If I'm going to the city, I go to the city. If I'm going home, I'll go home. Neighborhoods that are not my neighborhoods, or I'm not going to see a friend. What am I doing over there? And it's not that it's like that dangerous, but it's a matter of like I have the routine that I have. I enjoy it. It feels good, and it's safe for me. So I do that. It's a peaceful life, and it's a good life. Stay out the way. Mind your business. Yeah, and be nice to people. People need to be more nice, man. I realize, like, everybody want to wear a ski mask. Like, relax, bro. I know your mom. Your mom is a nice lady. Like, just smile. Like, life is not that deep. Yeah, so that's also the case. I think people should do is just smile a little bit more. It's not that deep, and it's about to be beautiful outside. Yeah.
Do you think that people are truly unhappy, or is it cool to be unhappy?
I think some people think the unhappiness keeps them safe, which to an extent is true, right? Like I can J. Cole has a great line. He's like, put your frown on before they think you soft. And I think that's like a lot of what does keep you safe. You look real happy, people are gonna hate on you. And if you look not threatening, but not necessarily approachable, people won't come up to you. So it keeps you safe more than anything. I think people actually want to be happy more than they want to be unhappy, but life is so
Mm,
how you stay safe, particularly men as well.
okay. So, as a man, a young man going into the thick of adulting, what are your thoughts on masculinity? How do you see that playing out in your life? Like, what does that mean to you when you hear the word masculine?
When I think of the word masculinity, I first and foremost think of like the perspective that like my mom, my grandma, my aunt would hold of like a man who's supposed to be accountable, be there for the family, be handy, like electrician, plumbing, blah blah blah. Yeah, also be confident. I think that's one thing my mom always instilled in me, like a confident man is a sexy man. So that's what I think about when I think of masculinity in terms of that perspective. But then I'm so grateful to be a part of Gen Z because it's like masculinity for us is so, for some of us, is so so much freer. Kind of reminds me of like the 70s in some ways, or
Really?
80s. Yeah, it just feels like, man, like you call me on a real calm day, but like the earrings could be cool. You could wear whatever you want, and like the expression is on, like it's like a floodgate at this moment. I just feel like you can do whatever. Like I've seen guys look super fashion forward with skirts. Like man, we our perspective is just so small. Like the Irish
Mhm.
folks wear kilts, and that is drippy. Like that's
Listen, that's fire.
me. So I think for being Gen Z, it's like masculinity really means nothing more than kind of like expressing yourself and being your truest self. Yeah, being a man doesn't really have to be kept in a box, I don't feel like anymore. Especially like when we're just, I feel like the initial thought is of cisgendered men. And then we get into different, like a queer's perspective, it's like, man, everything is free. Everything is fun. Everything is love. So that's what I'm here for. And that's how I live and think about masculinity.
Do you feel like there is a level of imbalance sometimes because it is so free? Do you think that people, because as a person, as a woman that is for free love,
Mhm.
love whoever loves you. I don't really care what happens in your bedroom and in your heart. That's not really my bag. But I do understand that there's a level of structure that helps.
Mhm.
There is a level of too free where you don't know how to hold down a job. You don't really know what it's like to be on time to stuff, or the importance of showing up with a level of like, yeah, no, I belong here.
Yeah.
And I feel like you lose some of that when there is a level of freedom. It's almost like virile cats.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, like you can have freedom, but know when to,
Yeah.
exert it. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do think so. I have two baby cousins who are one who is what year are we in? 2025. One who's getting ready to turn 10 next year. The other one who's turning 4 in October. Or yeah, 4 in October, let's just say. And I think of myself as a like if there's a spectrum of free masculine, I feel like I'm on the left, but I'm like a moderately on the left in terms of my expression. But the thing I think of is, man, it's important for me to show up as I am for them as well, so that their perspective can be wider. Um, yeah, just because I think it's cool to be free and all, which is I definitely 100% for that. But being accountable,
Mm-hmm.
like community is important. The people that you love are important, and perspectives, I fear, and association are so tied. Because it's like if I'm like this free, cool, artsy guy and I never show up, these young minds are not thinking like, oh, if I see somebody like that, they're not going to be accountable. They don't
Mm-hmm.
show up. And so, to the best of my ability, I try to be free and show up just because you get that, okay, this is sick. This can work. And it allows for people to have trust in terms of friendships, bonds, love, family. Yeah. So I think be free and show up. Like, I think the two things don't have to be exclusive. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, like I've seen you operate and you're very responsible, like, but you still make time to go play ball and, be athletic. So I do feel like there's a need for freedom of expression, but balance is needed. In terms of your friend group, do you feel like you have friends that live in the same world that you do, or like how do you choose your friend group
Mm.
at this point as you're going from young man to grown man? How do you choose your friends at this point?
That's a great point. That's a great question. Well, first and foremost, I feel like I have 3 or 4 friend groups that have come in different parts of my life, which I'm grateful for. And even some that like are in that 3 or 4, like from middle school all the way to like recent jobs, people that have become friends. I think picking friends, and I was having a conversation with a new friend the other day about like showing up and holding space for different categories of people, if you will. And so I have some friends who are like we're talking about this liberal like expression situation, who are very much very fashion forward, very gaudy, if you will, um,
Mhm.
and or flamboyant at this point, and that's like sick to me. And then I also have friends who are like very much a little bit more conservative, laid back, do their own thing, and that's also cool.
Mhm.
And so for me, it's like trust is built over time. So it's like if you're a good person, you're optimistic, you don't get involved in too much mess, if you will. And throughout time, you show time and time again that I can trust you and you show up for me. I'm like, cool, yeah, look, we can definitely solidify this friendship. And then also, like, I really do appreciate having a duality because you have different friends for different things. Like, yesterday, I went played basketball with one of my friends that I would never do with another friend. And that's super sick because I can go to a gallery with another friend and that's a whole different part of myself that's stimulated. And so that's sick. So yeah, I try to pick friends as accountability and their characteristics first, their traits, being decent people, and everything else second.
Okay. So, how do you handle situations where I was talking to a gentleman the other day and I asked the question, so if you have friends that are doing things that are morally not what you would do, How do you handle that? And his response was he would choose when and where to say something to them. But like your age group, you're very, for the most part, it's very much handled
Mm.
and very socially done sometimes. Like, how do you handle that when you have a friend that's doing the most and it doesn't really align with who you are or what you would be doing?
Yeah. When I was like 16, I went to this like debate random camp in Indiana. It was pretty cool. And one thing they taught us was the difference between calling somebody in and calling somebody out. Um, sorry, I thought that was a B. And so uh, when they taught us that, it like opened my worldview, because it's like, as you're saying, and a simple way to put it is like, if I just put my friend on blast for doing something crazy while we're outside, that creates a shame, that creates an embarrassment, that doesn't create change. And so if it's like you did something crazy while we're outside, later we go back home together, like traveling back, if you will, and it's a smaller, more intimate group of friends, then it's like, yo, bro, that wasn't cool. Like, come on. And it's usually like, let's say I was the person that was acting crazy. Usually in one of my friend groups, the other three friends will be like, Steve, that was crazy, as a unison. And so it doesn't feel like one person's just singling me out. And that's kind of how we handle things. I don't know. I feel really blessed to have mature friends who are like, man, that's wrong and weird. Like, we're getting too old to be weird. Like, come on, man. Yeah. So, that's it. Calling somebody in because I want somebody to change for the betterment of themselves more than to put them on blast and have them be embarrassed and shameful. Because nobody likes to feel shame. I don't think shame creates change.
So as a guy, how do you deal with shame? Like, what are situations where you know that men deal with that create shame in them that people would not necessarily be aware of?
Situations that create shame, you said? There's a few. I think probably the most prevalent is when it comes to like my heterosexual male friends who are dating women, or like figuring out the dating scene is like one of the biggest things. A lot of Gen Z terms now, like crash out, uh,
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of different terms. I think that's one of the main things that cause shame within us, which often it comes with a one-on-one conversation. So one of my best friends, who is an Egyptian guy, moved here when he was 14. Him and I are like blood couldn't make us any closer. And so if we're having a conversation where he's seeing somebody or I'm seeing somebody, and it's like, man, I put myself out to be vulnerable and was responded with like a or got a response that made me feel like less of myself. And this is not the way we say it. It's usually much more, of course, like, man, I was out and this girl said this, and I was like, ah. It's like, it's a very emotional thing. But it's just like, man, that's the part of life that's like, and it's gonna sound crazy, but it's like the most beautiful part, right? Like having my friend be there for me when I was like, I'm going to be fully myself. And if this person doesn't like it, like they don't like it, is so great because I can go back to this friend that I have. So really community, but go back to this friend that I have and be myself and know that that's welcome. And so leaving the space for my friends to be weird and them come back and be like, my weirdness wasn't accepted. And we'd be like, ah, that's terrible. Okay.
He said my weirdness wasn't accepted.
Like, of course, like I said, it's not in these terms. And that's really what we're saying. It's like, all right, cool. Well, we'll keep being weird together. And when we find out people that match out weird, they'll match out weird and it'll work, just like we became friends. So that becomes really the anchor and the standard for me and my friends when it comes to like not being accepted or having to deal with the shame of dating or like just interpersonal relationships in general.
What is your perspective on guys and this uptick in level of violence when they are rejected or not accepted? Like, where do you feel like that comes from or can come from that's become such a thing? Now, of course, there have been instances in the past where, domestic violence has always been a thing, but
Definitely.
it's so public now where a guy doesn't get a number or, how does that come about?
Yeah, that's a great question. To be vulnerable, I feel like there's a lot of men in my life who have seen like domestic violence, and I'm grateful that a lot of them are like, man, that's wrong. Like, I would never do that. But I do think on the other side of the spectrum, there's people who are like seeing that and then don't know any better way to feel to respond with the shame, which accountability needs to be taken because hurting another person is crazy and wrong. But speaking about origins, I think it's seeing it generally and like responding that way out of a trauma response. But as a grown man, you need to be accountable, and we need to be like, and this is why you need to have a good friend group. Like that was wrong. that was crazy. And especially if you actually put your hands physically on somebody else, like actions need to be taken. But yeah, I would infer it's from people that have seen domestic violence or like a lot of physical violence and think that's the way that things should be handled, which is sad because nobody should have to feel that sort of shame or that sort of pain, excuse me, if a girl was just like, or a person was just like, oh, I don't want to date you. I'm okay. Like, I'll pass. Like, that's
Mhm.
crazy. And that doesn't help anybody.
So, your mom, one of my favorite people in all the world, how did she impact how you see the world or navigated women, dating, and, you know?
So, funny enough, oh, Shawty asked me a good question. All right. So, funny enough, the other day, right, I was on a date. With all transparency, I'm single, so I could be on a date. So I was on a date with this girl, and it was a good time. And we started talking about mothers, and she was like, "I want to hear more about your mom." And I was telling her like, she's this bubbly, sarcastic, funny, very down, but also down to earth person, Gemini, silly, goofy, blah blah blah, all this stuff. And then I started to think about it myself. You know, growing up with a mother and a grandmother who really raised you and an aunt who really raised you, it's just like some of the stuff that people say about or men say about women, it's just like, man, God forbid, we grew up in a matriarchal family. Like, God forbid you say that in the house. That's crazy. Like, that's
Somebody might attack you.
what? Yeah, you talk about domestic abuse. God, like, yeah, it's just so crazy. And like, I feel like maybe this can definitely be a double-edged sword, but like me holding women at a higher value because of coming from a matriarchal family, it's like I just expect, which, like I said, double-edged sword. I just expect women to be like decent people, caring, kind, and hold space. So it's in my head, it's just like, oh, like if I'm struggling, and this is real, like whether I'm at work or let's say I was at school or something like that, having the history of trusting women, that's the first people that I go to with
Mm.
an issue or a joke or it's like, you know what I mean, emotions. That's just because that's who I had to rely on. So that kind of just led into dating in the same way that I'm like, I like a person who's funny, I like a person who is sweet, and I like to treat people nicely, which just creates a great time. Look, if things don't work out, we can still be friends. You know why? Because I treated you nice, you treated me nice. Swag. All right, see you later. Also, sorry, just the point talking about the imbalance, because a friend and I were having this conversation the other day. Like, as a man dating women, also, I'm 6 feet, so like, and there's a lot of crazy people in New York City. Having that assertiveness while you're out on a date with a girl is also a whole another thing that needs to be addressed. But yeah, kind of also trying to be like, not a, I'll take care of you, but like, if a weird guy comes up being like, yo, bro, chill out, and like, keep creating that sort of assertiveness and like space between like violence and stuff is really important to me. It's something my grandfather taught me about, and I still think is real and important. So,
So that's funny that you said that. So how do you feel about the fact that in New York, with the mindset of mind your business, keep your head down, that's not my bag. What do you think about young women or older women for that matter that put men in situations where they have to defend them, where things could have easily been de-escalated, and it's like you want to do the most, you want to turn up just so that you can see me be that protector or show out. Like, how do you feel about that? Because it's crazy to me.
yeah, I think that's very corny, and I think that happens a lot. My thing is like, let's say I was in a situation like that, and I'm with a friend or dating somebody, and she turns up, escalates the situation. It's like de-escalate the situation, call in, like we were saying earlier, like call them in and just be like, and to be honest, it depends on how high intense the situation gets. Like, I'm good. We do not need to hang out again. Like, that's so weird. That's so weird. Like, that's so weird. Like, you just want to create a sense of like, go heal. I'm sorry. We all need to heal. But like, this is too much. I'm so quick to be like, and my mother, so I'm very quick to be like, nah, I'm good. Like, we could end this right here. We don't need to do this again because I don't need that in my life. Yeah. Very weird. Do you have a brother? Like, a brother could do this. It's not my job. Like, come on. But
So
yeah.
what do you do? Do you get her out of the situation? Do you call her in at that moment to de-escalate the situation? What do you do?
That's a great question. First and foremost, in this situation, I think you should call them out. Cause like, yo, like relax. Like, depending on how elevated the situation is, we need to relax. Everybody needs to chill out. I think the escalated situation, if it comes to the point where I have to be that person, which cool. I guess. It's a call out and then it's a call in too, like on the way back to wherever the safe space is, like, what are you doing? Like that's unnecessary. And of course I want to say like that, I'm a very like even tempered person.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, come on. Like, come on. At this I hate to say this, but at this big age, like what are we doing? What are we doing? And that's it. But I think you should definitely de-escalate the situation and then decide if you want to do that again. Because as for me, I'm good.
No, thank you.
I'm good. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
So when you think about dating and women and expectations, where do you feel like you and most men should fall on that? Like as far as, oh yeah, 50-50, paying for this. Like what is your stance on that? And is there like a sliding scale where there might be a thing that you have to earn that? Like where do you fall in that?
All right, this is gonna feel like a cop out,
Oh boy,
but
you copping out?
but David and I have had this conversation a million times, and we always return to the place of you should find a partner who wants the same thing you want. I have no issue with the traditional woman, traditional man, modern high value, blah 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 blah. That's everybody want to do whatever they want, do whatever makes their heart happy. Find a person that makes like my best friend, like I said, who I was telling you about the Egyptian one. His name is Z. He is Muslim, and so in their culture and their religion, he needs to fill that role as a protector, a provider, and I think that's cool. And I think he should find a woman who also wants that. As for me, who knows? But you know what I mean? Like you should find the person that wants the same thing you want and not try to change the next person into whatever ideology that you keep. I think that's unfair. So fine, if you want to be the housewife, that's cool. You need to find somebody who wants to be the provider, protector, blah blah blah. If you want to be a house husband and you want a lady to be a breadwinner and the protector and provider, cool. Like, okay, fine. But like, and obviously gender roles get blurred in different situations. But yeah, find what makes you happy. Like, just don't try to switch people. Like, don't try to change people because of what you want. That's wasting people's time at this point. It's wasting people's time.
Thinking about children, do you want children? Do you feel like your age group is leaning more towards having children? Like, that's it. Maybe, how do you feel?
That's a good question. All right, so I think the most honest answer for me is that I want to be a girl dad. So yeah, I want kids. Yeah, it's crazy. Working in a school and being a parent now is also confirmed that like being a girl dad just sounds cool. Sounds like a good time. I do think a lot of my friends are like either they definitely want kids or they're just like waiting to feel like that mutual desire with the partner in order just like a great relationship in order to have kids, which I'm sure is important as well. Two-person/village job. So yeah, I think our generation still wants kids. I think these kids are gonna be even funnier than us. Oh boy, with the state of the world, like these kids are gonna be hilarious. So yeah, I think kids definitely. But Steven wants to be a girl dad.
Steven wants to be a girl dad. There are a lot of guys that are saying that lately, and they genuinely like want to be girl dads.
Mhm.
Why do you think that is? That is a crazy phenomenon that is happening. I have yet to meet recently a guy that's like, I want to be a boy dad. Like,
That's lame. I'm already a boy. Like yeah, I don't know
but
if
wouldn't you want to create another cool guy like you?
I have brothers. Like my mom already did that. Like it's okay. Like for me, it's like, of course, if I had a son, it would be sick. But like even the ideas of a junior is like so, with all due respect, corny to me. Like I would never name my son Steven. Steven and his like why? Like be your own person. That's just me. All right, now be a girl dad because I think girls are funny. Girls are underrated in a way of like I played sports all the time, so like now I can teach my daughter how to whoop some in sports. Like that's sick. How to deal with douchebags. Yeah, it just sounds like a good time.
Deal with douchebags. Do
Yeah.
you feel like you would still hold space for her to be like a really girly girl? Like, what happens if you have the girl that's like, Dad, I want to get my nails painted, and she's like 4, and it's like, are you the dad that wears nail paint with her? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. This is where the
Yeah, you are. You are.
I would. My thing is also like, and this is so weird, but like growing up with longer hair, man, I've had so many women that I love in my head. And so I'm like, oh, I would definitely be the dad, like my daughter doing her braids, doing the bantu knots, doing the whatever, doing the nails. I feel like, you know what I mean? Like, man, be a girl if you want. That's dope. Like, you want to be a tomboy, that's also cool. But yeah, you want to paint my nails to practice? I really don't care. I really don't care. I might even, we want to do white, I do black. I don't care. Like, it's Halloween. Man, listen, like, he's a kid. Like, you need to have, I think some, I don't know too many dads, but I think some, if you're going to be a girl dad, you need to hold a space for your daughter to be a girl and like express herself. So for me, yeah, let's do it. Like that's fine, and that sounds like a good time. So
So, what, switching gears a little bit in terms of how you see the world, which is very joyful, very in the moment, experiencing life on its highs. How do you deal with the lows,
mm,
like the sad times, or the things where it's like, man, that was really unjust and unfair? Deal with those times.
yeah, I think my initial tendency is a bit of isolation. So like if something happened like with the family or like within the world, like a good example is when Ahmaud Arbery got shot, it was everywhere. At the time I was in school, my first reaction was kind of like a whirlwind and then kind of just like to sit with myself for a little bit. Yeah, my first thought is like sit with myself and my mind starts racing about like what loved ones this could have happened to or if something negative happened to loved ones. Yeah. So first is definitely sitting with myself and then I'll probably write something. Like I'm grateful to be in a routine of like expressing myself in different outlets. So whether that's like writing a song, drawing something, writing a poem, whatever, like writing, just writing. My first reaction is not to speak things. It's really much like internal and then writing to myself first because that's kind of how I can organize my thoughts and make sense of what's going on. And then if I feel like some weight has been lifted, I would be okay with like talking to somebody like a friend, a family member, whoever I feel like can relate the most. But that's usually at the end of the process of like internalizing things. But yeah, first take it in. I'll try to express myself, and if that feels okay, then I'll like bring it to friends and family. But it could be, it depends on how long that process could be.
How do you deal with grief?
Man, if there's one thing I've learned is that grief is not linear. Grief is like a weird thing because when you lose somebody, anything can I feel like trigger um a memory and it's sometimes it's weird. It's like those tears are like happy sad tears. It's like man, I had this memory, but I can't have this memory again. So I don't
What do
know.
you mean by that when you say that? I can't have this memory again.
So like let's say for example, my aunt had passed away, which is tough, right? Like it's a sad thing. And this is gonna be really random, but like let's say I went to Walmart and there's a thing of baby oil. When I was maybe like 18, she came by and she was like, you know what you gotta do? If you wanna smell good for the girls, after you come out the shower, you put some baby oil, you spray some cologne, I mean, might be good. And it's like I think about that, which is right, fun memory, but it's a sad memory because I can't have that conversation again. So
Mm.
and that's the duality of grief. Like you wouldn't have grief if you didn't have love, which is such a weird thing. Like I don't know, it's the same friend I was talking about earlier said to me, she heard something that said, grief is all the unexpressed love. And I feel like that's so true. So I don't know. Sometimes you just cry about it. Other times you just got to thug it out because you're not in a space to cry. Like I may be at work and something comes up and I'm like,
Sucking it in.
I just like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick. Yeah, not because it's just like you never know when it hits you, but that's on a long standing like some time out. But initially, I am a good week of crying. I'm a good week of sobbing. A good week of frustration. Grief can make me very angry, and I'm not really an angry person. And a lot of confusion, because I think for myself, when people die or pass away or move on, whatever. It's just like, where are you? Like, that was like one of the first questions, like early dealing with grief is like, where did you go? Like, what do you mean? That like, it just, some of it is just incomprehensible. So, yeah,
So when we talk about grief, people often go directly and make a beeline for those that have passed on.
definitely.
How do you deal with the grief of loss of friendships or loss of opportunity, expectation grief? Like, is that the same? And does it translate the same way that grief does, or is that different?
Mm. I guess speaking about relationship grief first, and then I guess speak about friendship grief. It's because dealing like you said, first thought is a beeline to death. Um, Dealing with grief where the person is still alive, and if I wanted to, I could speak to them, settles me a lot because it's like whether or not we're on talking terms or we're not the friends that we used to be, it's like I know that you're still alive and well, and that settles me so much. But on the other side of it, it's also like I have a lot of friends, which I'm grateful for from years and years ago. But the friends that you do lose, and it's just like, I don't know, it's weird. It's weird because a lot of times I'm really good at burying things. So, like, I've lost a friend recently and probably saw them once or twice since. And it's like, okay. It's really just like sometimes it becomes a numb thing because it's like because I've had friends for a long time, it's like if this doesn't make sense for you to be in my life, I'm not in a place to beg you to be in my life. I'm just not in a place to do that. Yeah. I don't know. It's different. Unless I ended things. If I ended things, taking accountability. If I ended things, then I'm like, I wish you well and will always be rooting for you. And even if you ended
Mhm.
things, I still wish people well and hope that they do um, shoot for the stars, whatever, land on the clouds. Yeah, it's weird. Kind of a numb thing for me, for sure.
Where do you feel like you learned how to numb things?
I can remember it was either middle school or high school, like vividly, the shift from like being a kid to like growing into a person of expectation or like a man of expectation, and like a look in the eyes where it's like you go from like kind of like I was talking about being unhappy and like a guy in a ski mask, like you put your frown on and like you go throughout your day, and then you go home and it's like okay, like I'm open, like I've opened myself back up. So I remember learning that in high school or maybe middle school as like a defense mechanism. It's kind of spooky, but like it translates to other things. A really good like tidbit, I feel like where this was done really well randomly, but in the media. Have you ever seen what's the show with Zendaya? Euphoria? Euphoria?
Yes.
There's a scene in it where this black guy gets assaulted by his football friends or whatever. And in the mirror, you see him like the emotions is so clearly on his face. And he does this. He goes like and leaves the bathroom. And I feel like that's exactly what I learned as like a preteen teen is just kind of like you have to keep pushing because if not, like the world keeps moving regardless. So
That's sad.
definitely.
That's sad. And I'm pretty sure that that space that you hold is not uncommon, especially for a lot of young men, where it's like, it's almost like you have to ingest it and just let it sit there because who's going to be there to help me with this feeling? Right. Well, yeah, that exactly.
Roll the credits.
No, for real, but like that's you don't know these things, and I guarantee you that there are so many guys that are going through that or have had that moment where it's like I'm pretty sure in that scene that person didn't feel like their teammates would violate them or assault them in that way. Like we've run plays together, we've gotten hurt together, we've broken bones together, we've had losses together. Like why would you choose to do that?
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of young men go through different scenarios where it's like, why would you do that to me?
May I also interject? A lot of like, and this is just being frank, like a lot of, I'm a very sensitive person, that which I know you know, but like even as a young kid with older male cousins, which I love, and family members that I love now, like when we played as kids, and this is gonna sound really soft, but it's just really honest. Like some of the stuff was too rough for me, and I was just like, no, like, and it made me scared. It made me realize, oh, you gotta be numb, because if not, you're soft, and if you get soft, you get picked on. Like a lot of stuff I learned really, really early, and like now in my head, I've like come to terms and understand that even my older cousins and brothers and blah 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 were going through their own thing, which,
Hmm.
and I'm a middle child, so I've been
Yeah.
even, but it's also like, man, a lot of this stuff, especially for friends that I have, I'm like, and myself, is not only the people outside, but it's the people inside first. And that's like the worst because that's hard to get over. That's really,
Especially when you have to see them still.
what? Let me tell
You
you,
be like, yo, do you know how much you've changed my perspective on life? And I can't even really tell you that you did.
man, listen, yeah. And there's crazy, and it gets deep. It gets really deep. It gets really deep. It's sad. It's really sad. Really, really sad.
How do you through it? Because I don't want to say move past it because then that minimizes the fact of it. But like, how do you find your joy, even though you have those moments where you've had to basically have these things in your being and move through it, but you still come through with a level of joy? Is that real or is that manufactured? How did you get there?
It's a good question. I think it's a little bit of both, and it also works with the grief question, right? Like, you get a good week of crying out of me, and then it's like, come on, we have to, like, the world's still turning is like a beautiful duplicity, if you will. Like, the world's still turning, so it's like, oh, this is
We
terrible.
can't stay in this space for too long.
And especially when it's like wrongdoings by people you love, it's like I have empathy. I understand. All right, like cool, like that hurt. And even if I don't express it, I recognize and I let it go because I love somebody. And even if it's a stranger, like one thing I realized is like that you have to do the same thing. And not even for them, but for yourself. Like letting people like letting hostages go, if you will. Like that's
Mm.
not only for them it's not only for them, it's also for you and mainly for me. Like you did this, that's not the fullness of your character. I'm going to let you go. Thank you. And move on. Because I don't want to be sad and crying for like when the situations come up and it triggers me, sure, like that makes sense. But in some ways you manufacture it as a habit, which becomes a good thing. It's kind of like isn't there a thing that people say like if you just smile like you feel better even if you're not feeling good? Kind of like
Mhm.
yeah, sometimes you fake it till you make it. Or you fake it and work on it and then it's like, all right, I'm gonna live with this and make sure that I don't do the same.
Mm. Being an older brother, how did you avoid doing that?
Oh, I didn't. I didn't. I didn't.
You did? You were a culprit too?
Oh, I was a bully. I was definitely a bully. I was a bully, and here's
No, not to
right.
Jay.
Yeah, and we've had our own reconciling, which is what it's about, right? And I'm grateful because it's like a beautiful. Here's a duality again. I could have been a. Am I allowed to use explicit on this, or should I not use
Yeah,
explicit?
absolutely.
I was a shitty person or a shitty older brother at a point, but I also was a good older brother. And him being on his own journey, you see the importance of holding grace for people. And so you come together, have a conversation, and you make the effort to not do it again. And like
Mm.
grieving isn't linear and it happens and like you have to when you're triggered, you don't do the same thing. One thing we talked about recently and all right, so being young people at These house, it was like, man, you go to the back room, it was Christian's room, and you're gonna play a video game. And as kids, it's like you if you get a remote, it may not even work for the game, right? But then if you do, and you get on there and they whoop you, they're making fun of you the whole time to the point where you throw the remote
Yes.
down, then you're gonna rock, right? That's like a whole like lore canon event. But it's also like at this age now, it's like you lose and you look at each other and y'all kind of laugh about it, like, man,
Like,
you got me, you got me, you got me, you got me, and you know to kind of chill because we all have grown, which is the most beautiful thing. So you learn some tough skin. Tough skin is
yeah, it was definitely Lord of the Flies for a while. Like
what? Let me tell you, the rocks,
Lord of the
the
Flies.
rocks, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So we are almost at our time, but I'd like to ask you, what do you think that the ListNing project can do to bring more awareness to the male experience? Like how could we better help you all to live better lives, fuller lives, more open lives? How can we be of service?
Well, you're a brilliant, loving, space holding person in yourself, and I'm sure you won't lose that. So that's great. I do think by doing what you're doing, bringing visibility to the show is already a huge step. And kind of just like with art, and I didn't mention this before, but I'm glad you asked this question now. It's one thing, and this is not to speak to you, but it's just like a general idea of, and also like what the impact can have from you having this going on. But it's one thing for me to write in a song, I'm gonna be a great person, even if I'm hurting, like whatever, right? It's another thing to go out in the world and do that work. And so, like, holding space for the men in your life to be the full spectrum of whatever a man can be, I think is always the most beautiful thing. And like you're already doing, holding the space for young men, old men, maybe even do a boy, who knows, like, allows for men to have the, oh wow, I don't have to be one thing. And whatever I'm holding, I don't need to hold alone. And I think on this show, and you as your person, um, are doing is splitting the burden.
Mm,
You share with somebody else, you don't have to carry the weight alone. So I think you're doing that. So keep doing what you're
thank you. I appreciate it.
doing. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you, Steven. Thank you for giving me your time. As always, you're just a ray of light and honesty. And, I want you to keep being that because it's needed. And it's something that other people might not feel comfortable with being because they don't know what that comes with,
Mm-hmm.
and how the world will see them. But keep showing up.
Thank you. I try.
All right, honey.
All right.